Good afternoon, everybody. This is Joy Lingerie, and today we have 15 Stitches Band, at least two members of it, Chris Passanetti and Rob. Oh dear, I knew I'd forget it. Can you help me?
Field.
Pardon?
I think
Field, that's it. Field, Rob Field. Sorry for that. I apologize. So before we begin, I'm going to introduce Luscious Moss Studio, my sponsor. He's located in Edgewood, Washington. And if you have any needs, such as producing a recording or whatever you might need in a studio, he is available for that. He has a very collaborative and creative environment, and I've been going there since the beginning of COVID and pushing my music out. I see we have the reader. Yeah, what do you call that? The banner coming across the bottom. So you can find him under Chad Chris at Luscious Moss Studio, Edgewood, Washington, on Facebook. He also is on YouTube on many of his recordings. Anyway, with that, I'm going to start the interview. Now, I have not met you guys before. I've never heard you play. I've only listened to your video. So I guess we'll start with you, Chris, since you were the contact point person. And can you tell me a little bit about when what instrument you started with and when, and maybe your first paying gig and what your musical influences were and how you got into this band at this point in time?
Gosh, yeah. Hi. Let's see. So I started playing music quite young. I started off playing in trumpet in grade school, and I played trumpet all through grade school and junior high because I knew that it was like the one class I guarantee I could get an A in, so that helped my GPA.
Cool.
But by the time I was getting out of junior high, I didn't feel like going into high school playing trumpet. I thought that was kind of nerdy, and I'd already been looking into playing guitar because I was very interested in music at what I have come to conclude is a pretty young age. Between 12 and 14, 12 and 15, most of the people I knew they still weren't really into that. They definitely weren't into what I was into. So around 15, I'd gone to a concert. After that concert, I knew I wanted to buy a guitar, so I sold a bunch of baseball cards, went into the pawn shop, bought a guitar, and the rest is it's far more complicated than that, but it's a little bit of history. It's history at this point. A lot of my influences were the mid to late 80s, like wave of British heavy metal bands. I really liked Def Leppard quite a lot, especially in their Pyromania and Hysteria areas. I was very much into Iron Maiden. And then, Guns N' Roses had started coming out. And then shortly thereafter that, in the 90s, grunge scene started coming around. And that was a very big influence on me. Because it was like a local sound, and a lot of the bands that were coming out of Seattle were just
Right.
I hadn't heard them all, but I'd heard a number of them in various iterations. So, and then I got into this band because I was in a previous band that a friend of mine had started. Called Nothing Sounds Good, and I just was kind of I just wanted to try another band as well.
Yeah.
So
can I ask you before you go and pick up this thread again?
Yeah.
What was the concert your first concert that you went to see?
Oh, it was Faith No More opening for Billy Idol at the Tacoma Dome. 1992-ish, I think. Maybe it was 93. I can't remember the year. It was right around there though. Maybe 91. Yeah. So I got into this band This band actually wasn't a band. What happened is I responded to an ad on Craigslist that
Ah,
Rob had put online looking for a guitar player, and then this became a band. So that's sort of how I started.
what would you call? You're obviously the lead guitarist for the band, correct? Yeah.
I'm the only guitarist for. I mean, if you count bass as a guitar, then
Yeah.
At least they don't count bass as an instrument.
the bass is definitely an instrument. I listen to it all the time. So, um, when you first started, were the members that you have now the same members that you when you put your ad in? Was it called 15 Stitches?
it's
Okay.
been we've been 15 Stitches from the beginning. But how many singers are we on now, Rob? This is our last singer.
I guess there are fun singers, huh?
Yeah. Our first singer, I think he had some things going on in his life, and it just made things really difficult. Our second singer was exactly what we needed for that short, brief period of time because we had some obligations already. We had some shows booked, and I think he helped us get through that. And wasn't he was a phenomenal singer, really great songwriter, just not quite the best fit. And then we found Tim. I actually don't remember how we found Tim. I think one of us found him online somewhere. And he is an excellent fit. He's a superb songwriter, and we make good music together. So, but
So
we've
are
been
you
named
covers
15
or
Stitches.
original? Are you guys covers or originals? Or both?
Mostly originals, but we have an occasional cover that we throw in here and there.
Yeah. So people recognize it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. So I guess that makes it your turn, Rob. What is your background? And I hear an accent, so I'm assuming you're probably from the UK.
Yeah, I am originally. So I've lived in the States for 26 years.
Ah,
But yeah, so musically, so I actually started off playing upright bass. I've really played bass my whole life, just in one form or another. But I was lucky when I was growing up. There was still really well publicly funded music systems. So I got upright or, private lessons. I also got orchestra and I also got choir lessons. Then when I was about 14, I became absolutely obsessed with the group Level 42. I don't know if you know who they are, but they're like a jazz funk group. And the lead singer slash bass player, Mark King, he can play insanely fast. And so I was just absolutely obsessed by him. So I wanted to become a bass player or play bass guitar. And then funnily enough, I kind of jumped straight from listening to pop music to thrash metal. And so I pretty much stopped trying to play with my thumb and started playing with a pick.
Hey, can I stop you for a minute? What
Sure.
the heck is trash metal?
Or thrash metal, like Metallica.
Like what? Oh, okay. All right.
Gotcha. Maybe we should start a genre trash metal, but no, it's thrash metal. So anyway, I kind of ended up through a couple of sideways maneuvers. I ended up in a group that became Cries of Tammuz, or Tammuz, and that was a goth group. And we ended up getting about 2 albums put out in the UK, kind of like a big fish in a little sea, you might say.
Yeah.
And by that point, I'd got married, and my wife's actually American, and so we decided to move to the States in like the mid '90s, and then we moved here in '99, and I was in another group called Painted Window for several years, as well as a couple other ones. And as Painted Window began to disintegrate, that's kind of how I met Chris, because we were originally looking for another guitarist, which is how I had his number. And then when the group completely disintegrated, I still had his number. So I just thought, well, I guess I'll call Chris then, And, we hit it off. So Chris and I are effectively he'll come back, don't worry. Chris and I are effectively the only 2 remaining members. So there was originally 4 of us, and Chris and I are the only 2 remaining original members at this point.
Ah. See, got him. Hello. Oh no, in fact. So you two, what Robert was telling me while you were gone was that you were the only two remaining members of the original 15 Stitches band, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I right about the 80s and 90s. Now I don't know because I don't live here. I'm from Minnesota. But from the rock stars, not rock stars, but the rock musicians that I have on here told me that this place is really hopping in the 80s and 90s. And London Bridge Studios in Seattle was recording a lot of the local rock bands. Were you were you playing during that period of time? Were you involved in that at all? Or
Uh, I was playing, but I don't believe I was in it.
oh, I can't hear you.
Yeah.
We've got a glitch here. I can't hear you.
How about
Oh,
now?
yeah, it's better.
Okay. Yeah, I was playing, but I wasn't in a band at the time. So, you know, you were referring to like the mid to late '90s, correct?
Yeah, yeah. And
I was,
Queensryche and
yeah, I played guitar, but I was really young at that time, and um, yeah, I just didn't have a band, and frankly, for the longest time, I didn't really have the confidence to like play with other people. That came later, so
so Rob, what's the transition like from the UK and European music to American music at the time when you got here?
I often say it's not as different as you probably think. I mean, firstly, England to some degrees is trying to be a little America anyway. And secondly, I mean, especially moving to the Pacific Northwest is a pretty easy transition. I've often said that the Pacific Northwest has a very European view of the world. It's very multicultural. You
That's
know, the
interesting.
weather is very similar. So it's I think it'd be one thing if I'd moved to like, another state that was politically or, weather-wise a lot different. But honestly, I think if you're going to you're from Europe and you're trying to move to the States, the Pacific Northwest is about as easy a transition as you can probably find.
Right. That's interesting to hear. I have an Australian a fellow that's a musician, mostly a singer, and he's telling me about Australia, what the market was like there, and what the music scene was. And the more he talked, the more it sounded to me like it was not that different. And so I'm beginning to think you might be right that from one place to the other, really, especially Seattle, is pretty much an international city. It's not that much different. The scene looks similar. So, were you influenced by any of the bands that were coming out of Seattle during the? Were you here in the 90s, or
So I landed
where
in
did you
nine.
get here?
So I actually kind of, well, I mean, a lot of the time, the bands I listened to at the time, grunge was big, weren't
Yeah,
necessarily grunge bands. The thing is, I think that really good musicians listen to a lot of styles. So even when I was in a goth band, I listened to a lot of music that wasn't goth. I listened to world music, I listened to reggae, soul music. I mean, there's a lot of things I like to listen to. So it was never like I was. There was certainly, I think you could say, things that were in when I was in a goth band. You could say were a little bit influenced by grunge music. I mean, one of the songs Tamers did was called "Walk to War," and I almost wrote the bass line by deconstructing Wood by Alice in Chains. But if you listen to the song, there's no similarity. But it was obviously at the time something I was listening to. So
yeah. So, how do you guys write your songs? Do you write them collectively when you gather, or do you write them individually, or
I
how do
found
you?
the joke is like a monkey. It's like a monkey rubbing two rocks together. So no, usually, I mean, it's a little bit of either Chris brings in an idea, I bring an idea, or we kind of combine songs. So one of my favorite songs we play is called Revolution, and the original idea I brought in, Chris went like with the verse, well, it's not really my thing, and he wrote a verse for it, and it was much better than what I'd done. And then I had middle eight, and I was like, I'm not so sure about middle eight. So we threw the middle eight out, and he wrote the middle eight. So the only thing's part of my original song is the chorus, and Chris wrote the rest of it. That's an example.
Sometimes there are things though that Rob will bring an entire song,
Um,
and we'll get to writing.
Chris, I hate to interrupt you, but we're getting a lot of how would I describe it? You're cutting in and out, like not cutting in and out, but kind of. Can you help me out, Rob? How does he sound to you?
I'll be right back.
Yeah, I think
Try something.
it's a weak signal, so it's just
Oh, okay.
it's you're getting like some latency or something.
That's interrupting it.
Yeah.
I don't know much about rock and grunge and goth. I've heard my first goth at this October, 2024, last October. And I went to this little place in Seattle, and this gal was a friend of mine was singing goth. And that was my first introduction. And she was doing it based on songs that would fit in to a Halloween theme. And I'm like, what the hey? I do country music. I do a lot of different music too, but country was kind of the area that I'm the most interested in. And so I'm getting an education from you guys like never before.
Hey, so if you like country music, have you ever listened to Margo Price?
No.
So Margo, I think like really good music transcends
Genre. Yeah.
I'm not typical. My dad was a huge country music fan. So I grew up with a lot of like older country stuff, and Margo Price is kind of like more of that kind of old style country music, or at least some of the stuff is. But it's like there's certain genres I don't really listen to, but if I find something does it really well, sometimes I like it anyway, just because it's really well written.
Yeah. Margo Price. So I'm gonna have to check that one out. I like country rock. I like the 80s and 90s stuff that started coming out with Garth Brooks and Keith Urban and all the big stars at the time. And I like that music better. I like the fast moving, I would say, country rock music. And I'm just now, in these last 4 years, getting to I don't know where he went.
I'm here.
Yeah, you're not. I'm not. Your camera's
Yeah,
not.
I'm not sure.
You're in a closet, Chris. It looks like you're recording in a closet.
I'm not sure why the camera's not working, but I think this is the best I'm going to be able to do.
Okay, though we don't get to see you.
Yeah, sucks. Oh well, that's okay.
All right. You don't want to go back out and try again? Well, he's bouncing in and out there. Where were we? Oh, that I like the faster music, and I'm just now being introduced into all the different types of music that would probably be classified under rock of sorts. I mean, would you say that, or
I mean,
too broad?
I mean, I think sometimes genres are kind of academic. It's like if you're going back to like grunge. I mean, I thought I was saying to my brother yesterday, a lot of what people consider grunge, each of those bands they sounded nothing like each other. It's just an easy way of saying.
Categorizing them.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I don't know if you ever, who Rick Beato is, but he's a producer on YouTube channel. And he was talking about what is affectionately named as yacht rock, which is like, early, late 70s. Anything with Michael McDonald is yacht rock, right? And it's not pejorative to me. It's just describing music of a certain nature. Like Supertramp is kind of like yacht rock, right? And so for me, like Nirvana sounded nothing like Soundgarden, who sounded nothing like Alice in Chains, who sounded nothing like Candlebox. So to me, it's just a way of making it easy for people to understand what you mean.
So why did you guys? I mean, obviously, you both ended up. I'm not sure how you ended up in the van. How they found you, or were you already there when Chris came in?
Well, Chris and I formed it together. There really was a group before. I mean, basically, like I said, my other group imploded, and I already had Chris' number, so we just kind of got in contact and just started writing together, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, we wrote. I think we wrote first 10 songs this band had done. Geez, in like 2 weeks, it just like that. And then the next 10 songs took 10 years.
Yeah, I get it. But how did you is there anything that you could use to kind of enlighten me about how you derived at the music that you're playing now, that you've written and your band plays? I mean, did it just sort of progress to that point? And what would you call it? Would you even put it into a genre?
I mean, I don't know how Chris feels, but I don't know if it's that thought out. I mean, I think I heard a quote from the lead singer Primus once, where he said that if you get all the members of Primus together, they bring the Primus out in each other. And I think that you bring Chris and I together, certain things will happen. You bring Tim in, other things will happen, and you bring in our drummer Jim, other things will happen. So I don't think it's that thought out. I think it's just you put it together, and that's what's going to happen.
So you each bring something to it, and it finds its own path.
The best songs we have, I think, are ones that we wrote when we were all in the same room. Like, we have some pretty good songs, I think, that individually, each of us had most of the parts worked out, or we wanted to have those parts worked out. But the best songs were the ones that we did collectively. Like the song for the music video, I distinctly remember us going through, well, are we going to play this 2 times or 3 times? And then we'd go, okay, well, let's just play it twice and see what it sounds like, and then play it 3 times and see, okay, it's 3. Like we do that a lot of troubleshooting, so to speak, or whatnot. So we don't. I mean, when we have writing sessions, it's really more like a jam session. Let's all, like, me and Rob pull out our own riffs, and the singer starts getting excited. Oh yeah, I really like that, and then I'll say something like, well, I don't, and then we find something in the middle, or not. I just figure out how to play it.
But I think one of the differences this band and every other band I've been in, I've made this joke. I mean, especially the iteration we have right now. I've made a joke to Chris before. This is the first bleep free band we've ever had. In the sense of, I'm not saying we don't argue, we do, but it's never a big deal about it. I mean, somebody might get a little bit of an attitude, but it's all over and done in 5 minutes. And I think the fact that we kind of enjoy doing it together probably helps a lot, and we are really good. I mean, Chris is my best friend. He's probably going to get all red now me saying that, but we go to lunch together. We do stuff together, and it's just, I think we enjoy it, number one, and then everything else follows.
Yeah.
So how long have you been together? I think you mentioned this before, but I missed it.
10 or 11?
Yeah, 11 years. So we first started jamming in late 2014.
Okay.
And so we just went over our 10th anniversary, a few months ago. I think it was like October or something like that. But
yeah, I think Rob's right. And it's been a slow process for us. I mean, honestly, I think the first 8 years, we just didn't do a lot. We put out 1 EP, and that was done really pretty quickly. Although I think it was done really well. There's some really good songs on that EP, and frankly, I'd like to re-record them one day, but I don't know. I feel like that'll take away from the magic that was that EP if we tried to do that. But that was merely just so we could book some gigs, and we never ended up with a lot of gigs for various personnel reasons. And then, when we found Tim, and then we got our new drummer Jim, we've been able to really kind of push the music. So We currently have a record distribution deal with Wormhole Death Records. We finally just decided to do a music video, which was just released a week ago.
Is that the one with the little red-haired girl?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's our mascot. That's Scarlet.
Yeah, there she is.
You know,
Well,
so,
she didn't quite look like that in the video. But
well, I mean, she's meant to be kind of a cartoon anime, but we couldn't do an anime video. But yeah, I mean, the last year has been really different with the album coming out and the record company finding us. That was an interesting one because their email sat in a junk box for over a month before I saw it.
wow.
So that almost, I mean, for all I know, that almost didn't happen. But
Where's the record company from? Where are they?
they're in Europe. They're out of Italy. So yeah, they're not local. But I mean, I had reached out shortly thereafter when the album was released. I had reached out to like Sub Pop and some of the local places around here, and
Right.
I don't even think I got an email back from anybody. So okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, I think it's how. Go ahead, Rob.
no, I was gonna say the funny thing is, I think when we went into this group originally, I think for Chris it was originally his side project, and for me, where I was at that point, like raising my son and stuff, it was okay for it to be something we wasn't very committal. And then I think with musicians, there's a certain gravitational pull that no matter how much you deny it, you want it to be successful.
Right.
And I think between, like Chris said, bringing different people in, because firstly, I consider the band restarting when Tim joined to some degree versus the other singers. And then when we changed drummers, it just shifted the chemistry in the band where we started playing a lot more shows. And I think people started focusing differently. And then other things just happened naturally. See, Chris has great business acumen, more than any guy I've ever been in a band with. And also other things just started to happen naturally. Like we were at Band of the Week on KISW. And for whatever reason, they just got our songs playing it. And we just had a bunch of other things just start happening without almost planning it, So it's some degree of, luck, and it's some degree of just the right chemistry, I think.
Right. Exactly. I get that. Yeah.
And also too, with the new drummer, we've been able to wrap some songs up. Like the writing process got a little bit easier. Nothing taken away from our previous drummer. I loved the way he drummed. But it's just, different people.
Yeah.
Different things.
I was trying to, what I was thinking, I don't know which one you want to answer this question, but can you tell me something about your drummer? I know we were talking earlier, Chris, about his, I know the people and I've worked with the person who was given Nokia Edwards, a lot of Nokia Edwards paraphernalia, etc. And his J.C. McCormick is his name. And my old lead for my band was his best friend, and he gave me one of his guitars. So I had some connection to the Ventures. Also, I happened to listen to their music and enjoyed everything that I heard. But apparently you have a drummer who did work with that band, and so we were talking about that, but I really don't know much about the other people. I don't know a whole lot about your singer and your frontman. And I don't know a lot about your drummer. Would one of you like to tell me a little bit about their background and how it is they came to be in the band?
Yeah, so I think Jim's actually related to Don Wilson, isn't he?
Yeah, by marriage, I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so
their family somehow.
Yeah, so Jim's actually played with some of the members of the Ventures. I think he's played with Don, and he knew Noki pretty well. So he considers those guys family. In fact, if you could actually look at my desktop, I have a guitar pick from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame from Don Wilson that Jim gave me. So it's a nice little memento I have there. But I don't know, Chris, if you're going to talk about Tim a bit.
Gosh, you're asking me about the guy that I know the least about.
It's
Um,
an enigma wrapped in a riddle or something.
well, let's see. I know Tim was in previous bands, but I cannot remember their name. He's currently also in another band called the Tremor Cats.
Hmm.
Like I said, we found Tim, I'm pretty sure, on some sort of internet search, just like I found Rob. Um, that's about it.
How long?
I can say this about Jim. Not only is Jim, he played with the Ventures, but I've been in two other bands with Jim. That's how he got in this band.
Ah,
Yeah, so I had played in Nothing Sounds Good with Jim, and that was the band that I was in when this band formed. And that band, I mean, we played everywhere as often as we could, anytime. It didn't matter. We played all over. And then Jim and I joined the previous the one of the founding singer of this band actually had a band when he was in Southern California called Six Gun, and he
yeah.
decided to kind of resurrect that band up here. And me and Jim played in that band for a couple of years, and COVID essentially killed that band basically. In 2020, that band had a small tour booked from like here to Southern Oregon, or maybe Northern California. I remember it was about 10 shows or something like that. And COVID canceled the whole thing, and I really feel like it took the wind out of the sails on that thing. So, but that's how Jim ended up in this band. Was yeah.
But you already had this band. It's just you had two bands that you were working with. So
Yep.
okay, 15 Stitches existed. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what were your thoughts about the future? I mean, some people reacted differently. A lot of people just checked it off, and I'm not one of them. But I have heard people say that it's okay. I figure it'll get over, and they find some way to get around it, and then be back at it again.
You,
Or
you, mean,
was it quite that easy?
you mean COVID specifically?
Yeah.
I mean, at least speaking for myself, so I was working in the healthcare industry at the time.
Ah,
So, suffice to say, I mean, I've often said that before late 2019, you started hearing this rumbling noise, and you get emails from the CEO of the company. Well, we know a little bit about this, but don't worry about it. And then 2020 rolled in. It's like, well, we're hearing a bit more. We're just making a few precautions. And then I started noticing less and less people in the office, and I was like the only person left. So, I mean, at least from my personal perspective, it is. I've said to a lot of people, it was certainly an experience. It wasn't a good experience, but it was certainly an experience. For this band, it took the wind out of our sails for about a year, maybe like a year or a year and a half. Which is where we changed drummers because our original drummer moved off, and at that point it wasn't really practical for him to be in the band anymore. So you could say a good thing that came out for us is, I don't think we'd have been as successful or as many other positive things would have happened if Jim hadn't come in the band. He brought a lot of calm onto, troubled waters.
was he in during COVID, or did he come in that period of time, or did he come after?
Towards the back end of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. During COVID, we didn't do anything. In fact, I was in two bands again at that time. Nothing Sounds Good had broken up. Six Gun was still sort of trying to salvage whatever was left of our band, or that band. And this band, we didn't have shows booked, and even at the time you just couldn't book any anyway. And Six Gun was busy canceling all of our gigs, but that band continued. I recorded an entire album. All of my guitar tracks I did at home on my laptop.
Oh, you were waiting.
Yeah, and while I think that was it was an interesting experience. Thank God we didn't. Actually, I shouldn't say that. It sounded really good. I think our album sounds better. because I went into the studio to record this album, and we were able to do. We just did a lot of things um, that were things that I had done on previous albums that I thought sounded really good. I think the Six Gun album sounded good for what it was, but this album sounds
Now, what is
much
the
better.
name of the album we're talking about here?
It's called Beyond the Wall.
Beyond the Wall. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, the funny thing actually for me is some of the things that happened on that album. There was a lot of what you'd call, Bob Ross would call happy mistakes. In the sense that I didn't think we were really going to do an album. I thought we were going to do an EP, and we got enough drum tracks done that it was like, well, okay, why don't we do a couple more? Okay, fine. Well, we'll just record them and see what happens. And so the last two songs on the album, I didn't actually know whether we'd actually do anything with them, but they ended up coming out pretty good. And like the other thing is, like when we were recording one of the songs called ICGFUE, I think Chris was just being hyperbolic because I'd recorded the bass line. He goes, "You should double track it. You should triple track it." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I went back and I triple tracked the bass parts because, okay, why not? And it wasn't something we'd really gone in and planned to do, but Chris got all exuberant about it. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll just go do that then. And so, there's a lot of, I think, happy little mistakes that happened, which led to it being better than we expected it was going to be.
And
Yeah.
being the guitar player, I mean, almost every song on the album is multiple rhythm tracks, multiple lead tracks. I mean, it's kind of the way I've always done it. Sometimes even in the rhythm parts of the songs, like this happened more, I think, in the first EP because of the way the songs were written. I usually try to play two separate rhythm tracks at the same time to make it sound like we actually have two guitar players. But it's mostly just because it adds depth to the song. It makes it interesting. But some songs call for it, some songs don't. It's sort of like a guitar solo. Like, everyone wants to be a flashy guitar solo player, but I've never wanted to be a flashy guitar solo player. I just like being a musician. If the song calls for a solo, put it in. If it doesn't, don't. I know we have at least two songs that don't have a guitar solo in it at all. And I love playing those as much as in fact, it's less stressful. So,
well, Chris actually, one of my favorite jokes about solos based on a guy I used to be in a band with. And I used to be in a band with this guy, and he was just like these noodly solos. And one day I got really angry with him because we were on stage and he's just like,
Yeah.
and I lost my temper with him, and I was like, that's just noise.
Yeah.
That's not noise, it's melodic. And I said, fine, blink, hum it then. Yeah, Chris, I think, underrates himself as a soloist, but he actually writes very tasteful parts. They're actually very melodic. They actually tell a story versus just being.
Can I put my 2 cents in there?
Yeah, actually,
2 cents?
yeah, I got a couple things on that. So Rob's right. I've always felt that phrasing guitar solos is really, really important. So I try to make it sound like a song within a song. And it's not necessarily about how many notes you play. It's just what notes you play. And funny enough, like Rob said, when we went into the studio, usually the plan is you get to a point sometimes where just one song, just one or two of them sometimes are just not. You just get to the end, you're like, oh, that's junk. Just delete it, and or we need to figure it out later. But that's not what happened with this album. And the one song that I was worried about that it would happen, and forgive your audience, the name of the song, the title of the song is called Demon Dick. And
Demon what?
Demon Dick.
That's what I thought you said.
Yeah, that's so sorry, Joy.
That's
just,
okay.
I think the cover of the album says "not safe for children" or whatever. But
Oh, it's either.
but that was a song that I didn't particularly enjoy very much. I played it, but I just didn't really enjoy it. But then when I finished the album and we went back and I started listening to a guitar solo on it, I was like, oh man, that's the best solo I wrote on the whole album, I think. So So I was like, now I got to relearn how to play this whole thing because we hadn't played it in months, you know.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Needless to say, we do play it live, and it had been a long time since we had that song in the set. So we worked it out, and it sounds great. I think yeah. I mean, we basically we play the whole album live most of the time, if not maybe just one or two songs short, because we have some really good songs from our in the past that we like to play too. So
I wanted to say something before you started talking, Chris. I listened to I listened and watched the video, and I can't remember the name of the song right now. Can you, the one that you put on my site, on this I
Yeah.
put up for you?
yeah, Light Psycho.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm new to rock stuff. I've been doing this for years, and I've been getting education. But I come from more of a country and a John Denver kind of background, folk
Yeah.
music sort of thing. And so it shocked me, this noodling stuff.
Oh,
And so many of the players of the jams I go to want to noodle country music, and it's kind of based on recognizable licks. So each artist puts in a certain thing, and it's very pretty much stays within that order. So when I was watching yours, I'm sorry I couldn't figure it all out. I mean, you had your little synopsis about what it was about. But what I did notice and what did strike me was the neatness, I guess. I don't know any other word, but the neatness of the playing, all the actual musical part of the song. That it seemed to me that it was very sophisticated compared to some of the stuff I hear around here. And I hear everything. I mean, in a jam, you can also hear everything. And I was telling you about Doug McGrew. He's kind of an area drummer who's played for the Creams, right, and some of the other people in studio. And I don't know if you know him, but Lynn Sorensen. And Lynn was for 12 years the bassist for Bad Company.
I think I know him.
Paul Rogers, yeah. And he plays at jazz, and he's really been in jams. He tends to encourage women to come out and play bass or sing whatever. And he's one of the few people, both Doug and him, are willing to learn your music, do your music right, and encourage you in the process. So I've gotten used to some of this stuff, but his music usually, I mean, I may just not have an ear for it, but to me, his bass playing has that same clarity, that same kind of smoothness, no nonsense kind of garbage thrown in. And I think, Rob, when I hear that noodling, that if it's nonsensical and it doesn't, it can be very irritating. I mean, you just know they're playing whatever's. It doesn't have a pattern or whatever to it.
Well, I mean, one of the things that people kind of, musicians often say, is you've got to kind of play for the song, and which is a thing musicians often say. It's a little bit trite actually, but in the sense but the truth is, you've got to, when you write, you're kind of writing for the person who's listening to it. It's yourself, and you've got to be more about the melody or the atmosphere than you are about showing how good you are. I mean, it's funny that a lot of musicians you consider really technical, their favorite musicians are people who play things that are a lot more basic.
Right.
Like Simon Phillips, who's a guy who played with The Who. He was listing off some of his favorite drummers, and they're not like super technical drummers. They just play well. And the thing is, I some things like chemistry. You put all this, the chemicals that is banned in a vial, and you hope it's going to make a nice, smooth-smelling concoction versus explode. So I think we do that most of the time.
Yeah. I played it for. He listened to your song. Doug McGrew did last night at a jam in Carnation, and he was impressed too. I mean, he liked it. He thought it was good stuff.
wow.
So it sounds to me like you guys are like, I don't have anybody come in here and watch today, which is really unusual. So I'm not sure if something isn't working on the outside or what. Usually I have a few people in here asking you guys questions. Did not happen today. Sometimes that happens with bands that they don't know. And this is one of the things that I hope this helps. I mean, a lot of people are workers. I mean, most area musicians have to have another kind of job to support their music. And
Yeah,
listen to
that-
these later. So
that would be all four of us.
yeah. So where can we find you, or how? What have you got coming up? What should we be looking for to listen and get to know you better and your music?
So we are on every single streaming site that money can buy. Probably some sites that I'm not familiar with. Right now, a good place to find us, of course, is on YouTube. If you just type in 15 Stitches, you'll get a sewing video about how to sew. But then shortly there, down toward the bottom, you might actually find the band. But we also have a website, 15stitches.com, and it has everything on there, including our show schedule. Our next show, we're playing at the Barrel Room in Portland this Friday. We're also playing Soulberry Coffee House April 19th. That's a birthday party for somebody. It's open to the public and whatnot, so it should be pretty fun. And then
Where is that, in Seattle or in
that's in Tacoma.
Tacoma? Okay.
That's in Tacoma. And then on May 3rd, we're playing JP's Bar Room, and I believe that's in Renton.
Okay.
So yeah, we got a little bit of a busy schedule.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you about this record company that is this the one who produced this album?
No, we didn't find the record company until after we had finished the album. So it's just a distribution. Basically, they just do the distribution for us.
Okay.
So
sort of like CD Baby or some other
similar,
distro.
except they do advertising for us rather than just put it up and call it a day.
So have they started that yet, or?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The album was released January of this year.
Okay. And what about do you have electronic EPK, electronic press kit?
I just use our website.
Okay. So this can be used for anything. I will send you the link, both of you, the link to this interview today.
Cool.
And I also asked that if you've enjoyed yourself and you'd like to do it again and put the word out there, you've got a new song, new album, whatever, contact me, or I'll check back with you 6 months to a year, and we can get an update from you on what's been going on in your world. And it looks like you're moving forward, and there should be some interesting things coming up for you in the future, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're actually getting ready to do another video, like Chris said. So, gestation process of this video hopefully will be a bit quicker, because the thing is, the first video we did, it was kind of done as a favor, so it probably took about 6 months for us to do. But this next one, I'm hoping we'll get done in a couple of months. We've already storyboarded effectively, so we've got actors up, so we just got to now start getting it scheduled.
Okay. I was going to ask you what studio you're going. Who produced your video? Did you guys do it on your own, or did you have to go through a studio?
Let's see, Rob. What was the name of the studio? I just can't remember.
I can't remember the name of the company. The company runs on it. So it was a guy called Andy and a girl called who our drummer knew, and so through them we kind of connected to do a video. But we're going back to do a second video with them. I actually can't remember the name of the actual official company, but I can look it up. But
Oh, it's a really good one. I enjoyed it. It was very professionally done, and that was the first thing that was the first impression I got. Not only talking to you, Chris, but seeing that information that you're giving me, that you guys are very professional, from what I can see. I mean, I don't know what you do when you're together, but
No, we so from the beginning of this band, I've always said to the guys, this band we're professional, we're high quality, and we're not doing anything less than that. The name of the studio is Studio 517.
Ah,
That was who did the filming. So,
okay.
but yeah,
Diploma or
I think so.
okay.
I think so.
How did they
So,
do this? So it's not in person. There was just things that you sent them, or
no, it was Andy was the guy we worked with. I think Studio 517 is basically his company umbrella.
okay.
And he did the filming. You know, we came up with certain ideas and things like that. And, you know, basically at some point, you know, we had all the filming done and said, here's kind of the basic gist of it, put it together. And that's what he did. And it's pretty impressive. I'm surprised, like we've nearly got 1,000 views on it, and coming from a YouTube page that when I posted this had like 80 subscribers. And now we have 100. Those aren't huge numbers by any means, but
No, but there's still progress.
yeah, it's something.
I mean, the thing is, the video is actually up there twice, once from on our official channel and one on Wormhole Death. And I think we're banging on 1,600 right now. So
It's moving.
we're not actually sure why it took off as well as it did, but you know, I'm not, you know, gonna look a gift horse in the mouth either.
Sure.
Well, I think it's because in part there's good music and well done, very attractive. And like people, I don't understand it necessarily, the video and some of the words. I realize that your music is a little more abstract. That type of music is more abstract than country, for instance. That tells a story that, you know, you can, is about your wife leaving, your truck breaking down, making out in the cornfield. I mean, you know, that kind of stuff. It's a little different than that. And I get it.
Very
So,
true. Very true.
what goal do you have? I'm kind of a goal person. I ask that question, and it's not always easy to answer. But if you lived for the next 5 years, which I'm hoping we all do, where do you see this band going in the future? And now that you have these things going for you, what do you see? Where do you see yourself in 1, 2 to 5 years?
Rob?
Oh, well, I mean, I think realistically, I mean, we'd like to get another album done, and we're already about maybe halfway through writing the next album. You know, I think our realistic goal has always been to just build a local following and be able to play a show where it's a packed house. I mean, I think we'd love to maybe do some shows further away from home and, you know, start being more than just a band that plays in this area, which is no disrespect to just playing this area, but obviously every musician in their head is dreaming they're on stage, you know, Wembley Stadium or whatever. So I think we just like to build a lot of following and be able to reliably pack houses. You know, I think that's within the next 5 years what I think we'd like to do. But Chris?
My goal is Wembley Stadium, opening for Queen.
So Wembley's actually where I'm from, by the way.
Yeah.
So I play Wembley, but I could go visit my mom for a while. So
I'm partly kidding, but also partly not. Frankly, my goal for the next couple of years is, like Rob said, I would like to do another album. My long-term goal is I've always said this, and I keep saying it, just put it out in the universe, is I want my band to open for somebody in the Gorge. I just want to play the Gorge.
I used to help there's called Rhino events out of Tempe, Arizona, and they would do the Gorge and set up all the stages, whatever. And I was there. They had 9 different stages going, and I was the roadie for that particular gig, wrapping big chorus, setting up stages and towers of speakers, and then the sound coming out of there was roar.
Well, if you know anyone, Joy, put a word in for us, because I think we burned Cheney down, or that city down to the ground with our high energy gigs.
Yes.
But that's been a goal I've always wanted to accomplish. It's all of our goals started off real small. Like I wanted to get put on the radio, and KSW's played us quite a bit. So, all right, cool, check that off. band of the week. Cool. Check that off. You know,
Nice.
the record company thing was sort of one that I never thought would come to fruition. So that's kind of neat. Check that off. But I think Rob and I, for the most part, we are a live band, and that's what I like to do, and I like playing live, and partly I think the reason I like playing live is because things are just a little bit different when you come and see us live. Like some things going to sound pretty close, but you know, as a guitar player, sometimes I just improvise a guitar solo and watch Rob's eyes get really big, like, oh my God, what are you doing? You know, and that's the stuff that I love doing live.
Chris, my eyes don't get big, they get very narrow.
Whatever.
Oh gosh. Well, I hope somebody watching this sees that and you get there.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I do have a few promoters that watch it every now and then, and I really don't know how many people are watching because I get statistics and whatever, but you get exposed worldwide. This isn't just here. This isn't just local. This goes to France, and it goes to England, it goes to wherever, because it's the internet, and so it's global, and it goes out on YouTube, so it's going to live there for a long time.
Awesome.
So we have like about 4 minutes left. And for those people that are going to be listening or maybe listening and can't get through for some reason, do you have any, I'm going to ask each of you individually, but do you have any advice? Obviously you've made progress, and it sounds to me like the quality that you've demanded of your band, and also the fact that you guys mesh and you've stayed together all this time, it's been going and working in your favor. So you have a lot of signposts that we've just discussed showing that you're in the right track and you're going forward in the right way. Do you have any advice for people that are not so far along that would like to get to be at least at your level and maybe where you want to go, they do too?
I mean, for me, I would say a couple of things, which is one, do it for the pure joy of it. Just don't worry about whether you're as good or you think you're as good as somebody. Just do what you enjoy, and bring your authentic self. I mean, I think the thing is, neither Chris nor I, or probably Jim nor Tim, try to be people that we're not. So when you put us all together, you put it in a blender, this is what comes out the other end. And I think, some people, they'll try to write a certain way to sound a certain way, whereas we are who we are, and this is how it comes out. So just, I would just do that.
Sounds like sound advice to me. How about you, Chris?
I would say don't go looking for the best, fanciest, flashiest guitar player. Don't do that with the bass player. Maybe try to find a singer that can sing. I think really what it is, and I say this a lot, is don't focus on the things that an individual in the group is not necessarily the best at, because I think the strengths and weaknesses of the players, when they come together, they make that band casserole, and the strengths and weaknesses, I think, are really what end up kind of coming out in the music, and that music's sort of what defines you. And there's nothing wrong with that, those differences. Like, those differences are really what make our music good. So just find people that you enjoy being around, and the music will come naturally. Okay. I mean, maybe difficultly. You're gonna have writing your own music is not easy.
I agree.
And being the fact that you can make money, you could literally, we could all be professional musicians if we were in a cover band. But we don't want to do that. We want to write music. We want to create music. So we go through the struggles to do that. And I think others could too, if they just sort of found the people that they like working with.
Sounds solid to me. Sounds like good advice.
Yeah, I was going to say, the thing is that sometimes not even being a good musician, and I'm a huge fan of the New York Dolls. I don't know if you've ever heard them, but I've often said that if the New York Dolls were better musicians, they never would have sounded as, because they sound drunk and about to fall over, because they probably were. So
All right.
Joy, thank you for the interview.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm glad to have you. I'm glad that was. I just feel kind of bad because nobody's asking you questions here. Not sure, but when you come back, they'll know you better, I'm sure.
Yep.
And also, if you guys feel like you would like to, I do have a website out there. I mean, a channel, a YouTube channel. You want to hit subscribe, I would enjoy that. And then by
Absolutely.
the same token, I will look for yours and subscribe as well.
Will do.
Thank you both.
Joy.
Thank you both. It's been a real pleasure meeting both you, Rob and.
Thank you so much, Joy. Have a great day.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
That's it for today. I'm not sure why I haven't had any attendees today, but that happens sometime. In the meantime, I have a lady. Her name is Valerie Cunningham, coming up next Monday. She's a total beginner as far as the whole music scene in Seattle and Tacoma and the greater Seattle area and Washington area, this side of the mountain. And I'm kind of anxious to hear what she has to say. She's brand new. In the meantime, see you down the road. Take care. And if you're looking for a place to jam, there's always Jerry Batista on Tuesday at the Oxford Saloon in Snohomish from 6 to 9. And Poorhouse Pete's had just started with Doug McGrew hosting, Lynn Sorensen playing the bass and being the MC. And they have a guest lead every week, every week that comes in and helps with music. So if you want to go to an exciting rock jam, try Poorhouse Pete's Incarnation. In the meantime, again, happy Easter, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you Monday after Easter. Bye.